What do Sydney, Sweeney, Taylor Swift, and Kayla Nicole all have in common? They all know how to use plausible deniability. I made a video a few days ago about how passive-aggressive behavior is very common in white-collar workplaces, and if you respond with directness and aggression, you may get in more trouble than they do. Now, I'm not condoning this behavior. I've written a whole book on how this is a business problem. I want you to be able to knock someone into the middle of next week and kick their ass on Thursday. But I also want you to still have your job next Thursday. I'm going to give the examples of these women of how this is playing out and why indirect dynamics happen and the consequences of them. So I'm Dr. Anna Kalshman. I research the unwritten rules of work for the working class and neurodivergence. I identify as neurodivergent. I'm from a very small rural town in North Florida that was predominantly blue collar. I'm extremely direct. None of what I'm talking about here is going to be very natural for me. I've been told the most neurodivergent thing you can do is do a whole dissertation on the unwritten rules of work because you think they're bullshit and you don't understand them. Guilty. So let's get into it. This campaign went viral because it was indirect. The only thing it explicitly said was Sydney Sweeney has great genes and my genes are blue. It also said genes are passed on from parent to offspring. That's not blue genes. So it did mention genetics. And it zoomed in on her face saying my genes are blue. But the actual genes were written with a J, and then it zooms out and she's wearing jeans with a J. This was intentional. This was not an accident by American Eagle. They were intentionally being vague to have plausible deniability. Because for people who are used to hearing racialized dog whistles, the message very clearly said to them, we are prioritizing blonde hair, blue eyes, and saying that genetic superiority is white women. That's what they heard. For people who have not heard those dog whistles their whole life, who don't care, or who are just in another political party than what they perceive the others as, they're going to say, you're crazy. She's literally wearing jeans. And for the ones who are like, no, passed on from parent to child is literally genetics, then you have the straight dudes being like, it's about boobs, okay? The point of that, all of that, is to have the people talking at each other because that boosts the virality, that gets people talking about it. And the jeans did sell out in a few days. This is called rage bait marketing. People went not necessarily because they needed jeans, not necessarily because they even knew who she was before, but because it became politicized, it became so talked about that people went to piss other people off. Since nobody could really prove to the other who was correct without, like in concrete terms, like, you know what it was saying, but because you can't say, the ad did not say, we support white supremacy, and if you aren't a blue-eyed woman with dyed blonde hair and giant boobs, then you are inferior. It keeps going. It's never really resolved. It's plausible deniability, and this is used in your workplace to try to bait you for when somebody says something passive-aggressive that you might know based on the context that they're being an asshole or that they're trying to get you in trouble. If you respond by calling them out, it could just start a war or it could get you in trouble, especially if that person has more power and privilege and is connected to more higher-up people in the company. Again, I want you to knock them into the middle of next week and kick their ass on Thursday. But if you fall for a trap they have set for you, you're not doing that. You are feeding into their narcissistic cycle and they love to see you upset. So that's why I made the previous video talking about sometimes the passive aggressiveness is meant to get a reaction from you. And if you give it to them, they don't feel clapped back. They're happy. American Eagle got what they wanted in the short term. Now, long term is yet to see. They sold out of jeans in a few days, but their stock has been up and down, and it hasn't really changed that much because ads like this spark a moment, but they don't necessarily build brand loyalty. You have to keep these moments coming. And we have yet to see if rage bait marketing will continue to work like this. It also changes with the moment because let's say 4 years from now, we may have a different person in office. Maybe we have different climate going on here because the context of the climate, political climate right now in the US had a big reason why it was interpreted this way. If they flip American Eagle and try to do something rage baiting conservatives, it may not have the same impact. It may be like the situation Tesla was in of being we're the climate change, which has traditionally been a Democratic position for so long. And now we're aligning with a Republican president, and we don't know why Democrats are selling our cars and Republicans still aren't buying them. Because they never cared about the EVs. I mean, some did, but like as a party platform, it wasn't a thing where they can be like, we support you in Doge, but like we still don't want a fucking Cybertruck. You know? So that's also the trick with rage bait marketing, especially with, when it's so politicized, is it can be a very short-term strategy. Now, American Eagle's a huge company. It's probably going to be fine. But we don't know how it's going to go for Sydney. I mean, I have heard her last video or her last movie flopped. I haven't seen any of her stuff. I suck at keeping up with movies and shows. But usually the individual woman, especially a woman with a predominantly straight male audience, that's already a short term. That's on a ticking clock because you turn 35 and it's over. How she responded was also very vague and open-ended. Of when she was asked in a podcast recently, did you expect this kind of backlash? Do you have anything you want to say on it? She didn't really say anything at all. So again, people who like her can interpret it as, well, she didn't say she was white supremacist. But then everybody else who was like, not happy with it, was like, you didn't take that as a moment to say you're not a white supremacist? Are you fucking kidding me? So again, it's these are like the unwritten rules of the upper class of how not only do people bait you, but they also try to use it for their own advantage. Now, before I get into Taylor Swift and Kayla Nicole, I'm going to pause and say that I have literally written the book on why these kind of indirect communications waste a ton of time, money, and energy at work. The ebook's going to be ready before Christmas. The publisher is still proofing the print copies, so I'm still waiting on the date for that. But I talk about all the unwritten rules from my research in this book and give case studies of real life examples. I talk numbers. I talk about how expensive it is, and I give recommendations for staff, people, leaders, and HR on how to mitigate some of the harm from these. So I want you to know, again, I don't condone this behavior, but I don't want to gatekeep this knowledge either. And if you're struggling with this and need individual support, my link tree is linked in my bio. If you see this before Black Friday, I do have a Black Friday special going on where you get a one-on-one session with me, a copy of my book, and an annual subscription to my school for $150, which is $374 in value. You're saving $224. If it's after Black Friday, sorry, that deal has passed. You can check out my school. The link is right here. There's a 7-day free trial. I do weekly group coaching, so that's a more affordable option. It's $15 a month or $150 for an annual plan. Takes it down to $12 a month. You can also book individual coaching sessions with me here, and you can book free 20 minutes for the first consult to see if we jive and if I can help you with your particular situation. All right, back to the drama. We have recently seen Taylor Swift and Kayla Nicole use plausible deniability. And this got so big, even I know about it, because I haven't listened to her since the teardrops were on her guitar, and I had no idea who this woman was until this came out, and I didn't know who he was till she started dating him. So this got real big. So I learned actually in one of my group coaching sessions in school that she dropped an album recently, Taylor, and that it was quite mixed reviews. Even some very loyal Swifties said it was just so explicitly racist that they couldn't continue to support her. Apparently there's a song, I haven't listened to any of them, that takes digs at what they interpret as a black woman, and they also interpret it as Kayla Nicole, the former girlfriend of Taylor's current fiance. But Taylor didn't explicitly write in her song, fuck Kayla Nicole, explicitly calling her racial slurs or anything like that. It's more indirect. I don't know the lyrics, I don't listen to the song, but this is what I heard. The people interpreted as a racist slam at her, and she has plausible deniability. It doesn't mean that she didn't lose fans, but it also got that chatter going on, the social media. I'm sure she used it to sell albums. I don't even know how the album sales are going. She's already a billionaire, so I don't know how much it matters, to be honest. But the point of why it's vague is so she has plausible deniability. So she can say, I never said that. I saw someone on TikTok say that she also conveniently posted like an Instagram photo of her with conveniently a bunch of other Black people at dinner. I don't know the timing of that. I don't even have Instagram. But that is a pretty white woman response, if it's true. What are you talking about? I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. And in these situations, again, she could have come forward and said, that is not what I intended it to mean. And as far as I know, she has not. So it keeps people talking about it, as well as losing some fans and others doubling down. And she might have gained more fans on the right, which traditionally has not liked her. So that may have been her appeal to the current times, which again could turn into a Tesla situation. She was for a long time not liked by more conservative people because she's not necessarily a traditional woman. But now she could be trying to feed into that. And again, we could see how that changes over time. Now, she does have more of a woman audience than Sydney Sweeney. Woman audiences are more loyal. Girls, gays, and theys are more loyal to women over time. But we'll see how this shift, because this was a pretty far stray from her music, so I hear. We'll see how it impacts her. Now, because Taylor was so vague in her song, if Kayla had come and lost her shit and directly attacked Taylor, Taylor could have made her look crazy. She could have said, I never said that you interpret it as you also gives away that it is you, or that maybe it's not you, but that you see yourself in that role, that you hurt me in that way, that you did. It would, if Kayla came at her directly, it would backfire immediately. And so instead, and this is how I heard about this whole spiel, Kayla allegedly on Halloween drops a video of her singing or dancing to Toni Braxton's He Wasn't Man Enough for Me. She had a whole production video. She had, the outfit. She looks amazing. She did the Toni Braxton dance from the 90s. And she didn't tag Taylor or Travis. She didn't do any of that. She just said, this Halloween, I'm Toni Braxton. Apparently, every Halloween she does a celebrity. I cannot verify that. I don't know. I didn't know who she was. But you see the plausible deniability. People can say, oh, this is about Taylor Swift in that song. She never said it was. She never said it was. So it starts that chatter. I mean, by the time I saw this video, it already had 10 million views. It started a whole trend. Everybody was dancing that song, which, again, it is a good-ass song. So it was vague enough that it had Swifties mad. It had people who weren't Swifties happy and redoing it. And then it just had Toni Braxton fans being like, yeah, I'm so glad this song is back in. I love this dance. I did this when I was in high school. I want to do it again. I want to relive like those days. It was vague enough, like I talked about in my previous video with the Suzanne Lambert joke. It was vague enough that people projected their beliefs and their understandings of what's going on in the world into it. And that's part of what made it so effective. Now, there was backlash because then again, Swifties who projected that this is a clapback at Taylor went through and found all her old tweets that were problematic, and she has since directly apologized for them. So that is cleared up. But she has never, that I know of, admitted that her Halloween costume and dance was intended for these two. Upper middle class white cultures tend to be more indirect, and most white collar is run by at least upper middle, but usually upper class white people, usually men. These environments are rampant with this kind of pettiness, with this kind of reading between the lines. It's extremely difficult if you're neurodivergent. It's also extremely difficult even if you're neurotypical but you're first generation, because you cannot be this indirect on a blue collar job. Somebody's going to get hurt. You cannot be this indirect in a pink collar job of why you have to do customer service and such. You don't want to not understand what someone's haircut needs to be. That's going to backfire. You don't indirectly tell a child to not run in the road if you're a healthcare worker. So it's a completely different shift for people who move into these environments, and it's not an easy one. So if you need some support, send me a message. My email is in my bio.